What up, Naughty Steppers? It's Connor Whitmore here again with another review for you on the Nawtystep channel. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the new EP from IVORY and Samplifire, released on Never Say Die Records, Termination. This is the debut collaborative EP from IVORY and Samplifire, two French dubsteppers who have made huge strides in the scene over the last couple of years, both releasing their first solo EPs for the Never Say Die label in 2018. IVORY on the main Never Say Die label with Next Level, and Samplifire on the Black Label imprint with Mancubus. The duo working together quite a lot even prior to that, during their ascent up the dubstep rankings in the midst of the French dubstep boom. Funnily enough, IVORY even claims to have discovered Samplifire himself, putting together a load of tracks in that time, some of them fully crafted and others works in progress, perhaps most famously in their four-way collaboration with Graphite and E-Craze under the Four Horsemen moniker, entitled Animals. But with the pair now operating in the highest echelons of dubstep recognition, the time seemed right for their combined powers to be revealed to the bass mainstream on the biggest stage of all. Which means ultimately that this project comes at little surprise to those who have been following them for several years. Now, as with any collaboration, let alone four of them, I think primarily we have to take into account just how hard they are to make, pushing forward your own ideas as they favour their own, and settling for those ideas when you may not enjoy them that much. There's a lot of sacrifice and patience needed, and all the while you have to find a good mix between your individual styles. So taking that into account with this EP, having listened a fair few times through now, I think they've done a pretty good job overall. Running with the forceful dubstep theme across the four tracks, predominantly RIDDIM, at points blending into BROSTEP, with some of it really working, delivering the exact feeling you imagine they want it to, and other parts not as much. Starting with the positive, I feel the dubstep in the opener, Game Over, is the most accurate depiction of that gut-wrenching feeling. Very simple but very forceful, with all the sounds extremely clear, energy is great, real presence to the overall sound. Also lots available to take your attention this way and that, layering really well. I particularly like the vomit-like frog sound in the first progression. The double/second drop in this track, however, is probably my favourite dubstep on the whole EP. All those jabs and skittish notes laid out so well, electric, high tempo, ambitious. It's fantastic. They really go the extra mile with their note placement here, thinking outside the box on that front, amazing rhythm to it all. The progression to that drop though I find a little repetitive and incessant, not too big on that glaring, deep siren-like sound. The dubstep in track 2, Hustlers, is also seriously impactful, general feeling overriding sound again to really get you in the gut. The relationship between everything is felt strongly, packs a real punch, got those isolated lasers on point as well. Drop 2 here provides the picture of a malfunctioning, swaggering robot bulldozing through everything in its path, which I love it for. You know, sometimes it's about the images it conjures up as opposed to the sound itself, and that's the case here. Even in the progressions, the dubstep is great too, beastly and savage, really well fleshed out and put together, but the squealing sounds hold those sections back from being even better, very out of place, misleading and distracting. So mostly very good up until that point, but it's as you go further down the line of the EP that the dubstep loses direction somewhat. The third track, Rhythm Killer, is similarly forceful, but the sounds at the front of each drop section stop it from gripping you anywhere near as much. The first drop has these very grating, off-key, alarming sounds. With the second drop, it's those gravelly, growling effects. It's just a bit messy in construction, built around specific sounds, but no clear ideas really shining through. A lot of synths, I feel, are just there, as opposed to working with everything around them, lacking chemistry between the components. I did really enjoy the second drop progression though, more concentrated, experimental and daring, really bursts into life at that point. The closing track Power, however, follows suit in less desirable ways, more dubstep that's a bit wide of the mark. There's actually a really interesting bounce to the first drop, but again the main synths are very off-sounding. More just filling space than offering something genuine, which extends into the second drop to a degree. The winding down dubstep here isn't bad, but it's bereft of colour and feeling, so it turns out quite dreary in the end, which is easily realised because they add those high-pitched touches in the progression, and it sounds great. There are several other moments, both good and bad, that I think have a notable presence on the EP. I enjoy the surrounding parts to Game Over most, I think. The evolution of the introduction and build is an impressive one, going from eerie to grand with those triumphant horns and drums, vocal samples giving it that hint of evil all the while. It's warlike, and I think that suits their combined dubstep style really well, preparing the listener for battle. Musically though, I think they tried a little too hard in these sections, where a simpler approach could have been more effective. The introductions are actually pretty interesting across the board, all unique in relation to each other. The scene-setting opening of RIDDIM Killer is kinda reminiscent of the introduction to Ivory's The Fight. I enjoy the warm, clockwork beginning to Power, like a machine gearing into action, telling a story through the musicality. And the intro to Hustlers with those acidic pinprick notes I find slightly weird, but the trap percussion goes in hard. I also love the whispered version of the main vocal sample here, expertly executed. Same can't be said for the RIDDIM Killer vocal sample, which for me sticks out like a sore thumb in that track, and for the wrong reasons. There are a couple of important moments of reflection as well, particularly in the midsections of Hustlers and RIDDIM Killer. But overall, would I say this EP stands as a good representation of their combined approaches? Probably. For the most part, Termination brings the gritty punch of Ivory's dubstep and the grungier, more mechanical feel of Samplifire's dubstep together well. There is both good and bad dubstep in every track, the first two more impactful and better put together than the latter two in my opinion. Both Game Over and Hustlers establishing a compelling dynamic between the individual components where RIDDIM Killer and Power don't as much. Beyond that track comparison though, there's a lovely definition to the majority of the sounds on show here. Not as muffled and muddied as other music of this kind, although some of it does need the high definition treatment. Ideas that could have been fleshed out more to give them extra presence, following from the great examples presented elsewhere in this EP. Structurally, Termination also has its interesting moments, playing with the standard dubstep formula well, dovetailing between the use of double drops and normal second drops, which has more significance in a dubstep track than you'd imagine. While some things they just do too much, the delay on drops, for example, becomes an expired technique by the end. Moreover, even though the introductions are varied, apart from the first, they don't truly grip me, which is kinda necessary with this music. But again, I return to the idea of difficulty in collaboration. It can be a real challenge getting solid concepts down when working with other people, if you don't usually. And I think, considering there's very good dubstep in each track, and a wealth of other brilliant moments across the EP, they've done a fine job. And not fine as in satisfactory, but fine as in, damn son, that's fine. It leaves me hoping they can expand on this partnership well into the future, as they both improve individually over time. Now, in terms of my favourite from Termination, then I think I would have to go with Game Over. For me, it offers the most from start to finish, the most ambitious with its ideas across its different sections, my favourite track of this year so far. And in terms of recommendations, if you enjoyed this EP, then I would look at Ivory's Next Level, Samplifire's Mancubus, and any other collaborations these two have done in the past, just to see how they've developed their combined sound. And so that is that, guys, for another review on the Nawtystep channel, this time of the new collaborative EP between Ivory and Samplifire, released on Never Say Die Records, Termination. Thank you very much, and as always, for tuning in. Be sure to leave a comment with your thoughts on Termination. What did you guys make of it? Do you have a favourite track from the four? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, then be sure to give it a big old thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, hitting the notification bell along the way. Nawtystep is all about coverage of bass music across a wide variety of genres, from EP and album reviews to top 5s and top 10s, rave footage, opinion pieces and more. So again, if that interests you, then consider subscribing. For some other Never Say Die reviews on the channel, check out the link next to my head somewhere. If you're not following Nawtystep across social media yet, links to all of those are in the description box down below. And lastly, if it's naughty, then you know, guys, so be sure as always to keep it naughty and stay safe. And I shall see all of you legends in the next one. Peace out.